where we look at the world through a biblical worldview. AFA Today.
So glad that you're with us again every single day, coming to you from New York. And as we are usually accustomed to, by the way, the live shot, if you're watching on the AFA Today channel, that's of Times Square. busy day here in New York City, obviously. But as we are working our way through the busyness of each day, there is this opportunity to sometimes forget that our government likes to dump news right into the Friday news cycle, and they like to kind of have things go kind of unnoticed. And what I'm committed to on Fridays is making sure that anything that I think is relevant that you're aware of. I'm probably not going to have as many guests even on Friday shows because I just want to make sure that we're watching them as closely as we possibly can. And the idea that the government has instructed internet companies that have third-party usage, Facebook, Google, Yahoo, other large operations that have people's screen names and passwords in them, the fact that they have demanded that these companies turn over those encrypted passwords seems to me to be just an outright violation of our expectation of privacy. And it gets mentioned late last night going into the Friday news cycle. But I'm glad that CNET is reporting on it. And I've got that story linked at afatoday.com if you want to see it for yourself. I also want to take plenty of your calls, and we've got lots of stories I've already rolled out there. So let's start the discussion with the those that have already dialed in, and start with Jason, who's called us from Texas. He's been with us the longest. Jason, thank you for your patience. You're on with Kevin McCullough on AFA Today. So appreciate you being here.
How's it going?
Good.
I basically called to I think that a problem in general is that too many people are partisan and not really partisan voters instead of issue and concept principle voters.
I agree with that.
And what I mean by that is that as I look at all the stuff that's going on with the NSA and the government spying now, all the people, the prominent media figures that are up in arms about that now, many of them, when the Patriot Act passed, were the same individuals that were pointing fingers and questioning the patriotism of those who did not like the idea then.
Right, except the problem was, Jason, and I've actually done some in-depth reporting on this in past broadcasts, the Patriot Act, which is getting blamed for all of the current spying, did not allow 1 ounce of any of the stuff that has come forward in the last 6 months. There wasn't one element of the Patriot Act that, in its past form as law, that could be used to be interpreted to justify any of these spying scandals that have gone on. None. If you go back and you read the original language of the Patriot Act, and then it was reduced down, so there's even less there when it was renewed, you will not find permission in the Patriot Act to do any of the things, the denying of the 501c3 statuses for the IRS conservative groups, the NSA spying on journalists, the NSA collecting of giant metadata and doing what they've done in this kind of broad, wide, sweeping range. None of that was embodied in the Patriot Act language. So to make the assumption that when following 9/11, people that were actually putting forward limited measures to say, let's figure out how to use technology to advance our knowledge of what the terrorists are doing so that we can target the terrorists, are the same people that then gave us the idea that now we must spy on all Americans because we don't trust anything that they're doing, and even the government's asking for our passwords, is just not, it's not true. That's not an honest comparison. So I appreciate the desire, Jason, to have integrity, but it's a different ball of wax altogether. Let's go to Ruth in Florida. Ruth, thank you for being here. You're on AFA Today with Kevin McCullough. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you for taking my call. I really enjoy your program and Brian Fisher, too.
Thank you.
Sir, you've been talking this week about the computer spying and all of these things. And,
Yes.
and I've only heard or read this once, and I don't know if it's true or not. Maybe you know about it. But I read that the government is copying. They're doing images of all mail, front and back of all correspondence. Now, they don't open the mail because it would be against the law. They have to have a court order. But that was how the government recently, when some of that poison stuff was sent in letters, that the government was able to track down the sender so quickly because they have images of all of our mail. Do you know anything about this?
Actually, I just pulled up an article from June 7th via The Smoking Gun, which is one of those conspiracy theory websites that confirms or denies what some of these conspiracy theories are. And it says that a high-tech computer system captures images of every mail piece that is processed through the United States Postal Service. And it has actually been critical in helping agents track down the Texas woman who was arrested for sending poison-tainted letters to the president and to the mayor of New York. So yeah, it appears that there is something. Now, that's address, postmark, stamp, date, that sort of thing. There's nothing that I'm finding in this story that says anything about the internal contents of that letter. And I don't even know that I have a huge problem with that because the Postal Service is responsible for handling our mail, getting it from point A to point B. If something gets lost in the mail, I've often wondered, well, why did it, and why don't you have a better way of tracking what you're supposed to be moving from point A to point B? And as long as they leave the contents of it more or less untainted, I don't really have a problem with that. But it does. Your question does appear to be true, that they have in fact had that technology in place and using it for a little while. And I'll link that up to the Facebook page after the broadcast today. 888-589-8840. I did also mention not just the computer password request demands that the government has made of the companies, but also the fact that the administration is saying that we are not going to deport a multiple-time convicted drug dealer, Filipino man, back to his home country. He is illegal. He has no basis of being here. He has been convicted of multiple counts of drug violations. And he goes to the government and says, "Oh, no, you don't understand. If I go back, they will harass me, and they may deny me work, and I won't be able to do what I want to do in my life and be here the way I want to be and so forth, because I like to have sex with other men." I'm trying to figure out why that's our problem. I'm trying to figure out what that has to do with abiding by our laws, being a legitimate immigrant or resident in the United States with either a visa or citizenship. How does that have anything to do with why you defied and broke our laws through this multiple record that you have of so many drug convictions that, you know how many times you have to be convicted of something? I mean, I read a story yesterday. It took 37 times for a person to be sent back to Mexico in 37 felony convictions before he was finally kicked out. So we're very lenient with people. We're very lenient. We go to all lengths to try to provide, unless you're a family from Germany who's being told by the German government that you have to educate your kids in the state schools and you want to homeschool them. We don't have any sympathy for them at all, even though that is direct, brutal government oppression. 888-589-8840. Lastly, I wanted to work this news story, and then we'll go back to the calls. Franklin Graham is speaking out and asking questions. Franklin, he's the president of the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association and the Samaritan's Purse organization. He is asking the president, why won't you do anything for Pastor Saeed Abedini? Pastor Saeed is jailed in Iran. He had grotesque medical abuse and needs that were being ignored under the Iranian regime. Many, many, many weeks after he should have, they finally gave him some medical attention. But the president has been silent on the issue of Pastor Abedini, who, by every account of every person, and I've interviewed his wife, and I've talked to the ACLJ, and totally fraudulently imprisoned. Accused him of proselytizing, accused him of aggressive evangelism, accused him of all these things. He hadn't been doing any of that. He was building a school for kids that needed help, or it may have been an orphanage. The details are escaping my memory at this very moment, but he was not involved in evangelism or proselytization. But he was jailed just the same, and he was sent to a prison that is notorious for the brutality with which it metes out its obligations towards those prisoners. And Franklin Graham is saying, President Obama, you take pity on this, on all these other groups. You hold Ramadan celebration ceremonies in the White House. Why won't you speak up on behalf of this innocent pastor? I think it's a fair question. 888-589-8840. Just some of the news we're watching for you today. Let's go to Oklahoma and chat with Scotty next on AFA Today. Hi, Scotty. Welcome. You're on with Kevin McCullough on the Friday edition. Glad you're with us.
Yes, sir. Hey, I just want to commend you. The things that you have to take on day and day and day, because out of all the AFR people, you're kind of more the brisk, like everybody else got a sense of humor and happy and got a lot of good stuff to say. And you always got to give us the truth, and you're the reason why I voted for the first time in my life. And I just want to say, because was you in the military?
I did not serve personally, no.
Okay, well, you just had that brisk manner about you. I mean, anyway, I just wanted to thank you because you really stress out that we all have to actually be involved. And I'd like the callers. I started with you guys a year ago, 2 years ago. I lost everything. I don't care, blah, blah. But from the other people that call and from what each of you guys do, all the way down from 7 o'clock to 6 o'clock, each of you have individual powers. And you, sir, really got me off my bunions to, vote. Be real. Attack this thing. And my question is on the deception thing, and I hope that you say, Scotty, you're way out there, because I don't want to believe it. But could it be that we're being deceived on the Border Patrol, on the Mexicans, and blah, blah, when really he's trying to sneak the enemy, not he individually, but the enemy is trying to sneak in Muslims so that we can block out Christianity in America, and we're being deceived because we love our Southern brothers. I mean,
Scotty, there's a lot of people that have asked the question. Is a border security policy all that important to the well-being of America? And I have talked with Border Patrol agents just since 2011. We have had more than 4,000 people of origins from the Middle East try to penetrate our southern border. And if you do the math, that's several hundred a year. And it only took 19 to pull off 9/11. We need strong southern border policy. We need to have very narrow gates by which people come through. And that needs to be a legal and orderly process. I am not opposed to having more immigrants come than we've allowed in the past legally, as long as they come legally. But it is to our own detriment. It is to our own ultimate destruction if we have simply an open border down south where everything is allowed to cross and there's nothing really to stop anyone or to at least vet people that are coming through. And so that is what's happening on the southern border, and you don't hear that being reported by news agencies, but all they have to do is pick up a phone. All a reporter has to do here in New York or in Washington is pick up a phone and call the Border Patrol. They will tell you the same thing. And for the 4,000 that we've detained that are of Middle Eastern origin, we probably have only stopped about 1 out of 20 that have tried to come across the border. So there may be upwards of, 100,000 that could have tried to penetrate the southern border that had origins from the Middle East since 2011, and that's concerning. I mean, that's a real legitimate problem when it only took 19 to pull off the attacks of 9/11. And I appreciate your kind words, Scotty. I don't mean to be more brisk or in any way unfriendly. I know that Brian is the convivial, congenial, the happy guy that follows me. And I think, by all honesty, you kind of need the balance, because I'm trying to watch the news and give it to you as it's breaking and with every amount of transparency and honesty. But I'm also not overly optimistic about the outcome of where we're going if we are not properly informed. So it's one of those things that I come here with a passion every day to try to tell you the truth, to do so as unvarnished and unbiasedly as possible, understanding that I am a believer in Jesus and I do have certain biases. But at the same time, I want to give you honest information and be an honest broker of it. And I thank you for responding to it. And your kind words mean the world to me. Coming up, more of your calls. We're taking your calls on all the news items I've rolled out so far, and we will review those and take more of your calls next here on AFA Today from New York on this Friday. I'm Calvin McCullough.